Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Soma ARah. First, a couple of announcements. Great ways to help support Forbidden Knowledge News. First, watch the Forbidden documentary, Occult Louisiana. It's available on Tubi, Roku channel, and multiple streaming platforms. Also, get a Rockfin premium membership. Rockfin.com/FKN+. Get access to all our premium content and all the premium content from all the creators on Rockfin. Also, download our podcast episodes directly through Spreaker if you listen on any audio podcast platform. Finally, booking guests for November. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Soma ARah. She is an author, psychic medium, channel, and healer. Soma, welcome back. How you doing?
Hi, Chris. Thanks. I'm delighted to be here with you and connecting in with you again. Sometimes we're so busy, the only way to connect is through these interviews.
Yes, it's great to have you back. It's been a long time, and looking forward to this. Today you wanted to share some of the intuitive and channeled information about the current era we're in that you've been receiving, and the true nature of what is possibly unfolding, maybe what we could expect out of the upcoming days, months, weeks, and years, especially with all the chaos that's already unfolded. You've been on the show before, and I've also had many other people that channel or claim to channel non-human intelligences and different sort of entities. I've also done shows recently where we discussed how it's possible that some channelers may not be communicating with exactly what they are told they're speaking with or what they believe they're speaking with, which is in no way saying that you are being deceived in any way. But I would love to hear about how you are able to confirm what you're communicating with and how you are able to know what you're being told is accurate in any way. So we're going to address this, many other possibilities, but it has been a while since you've been on. Remind the audience just a little bit about yourself and your work.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think the questions you're asking are really important. Um, so my journey began actually when I was born, which sounds strange, but I was I chose to be born into a very dysfunctional family at the extreme end. It wasn't so extreme that I was a victim of satanic abuse or anything like that, although that was very much within close proximity. There was a young child at my school who was murdered on what you call a snuff movie.
Man. Wow.
Yeah, so it was within my proximity, but I didn't choose that for myself. What I chose to be born into was a lot of abuse, um, many occurrences of sexual abuse and rape, a lot of poverty at the extreme end, where I got very ill due to a lack of nourishment and a lack of food. And this was in the East End of London, in Hackney, and an alcoholic mother and a lot of violence around me, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of aggressive men. And I was 8 years old and I was a skinny little thing. And I had a man lying on top of me called Bill, that was my mum's boyfriend, who was also an alcoholic. And I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe because he was so big and heavy. And I left my body and went up and connected to the Pleiadians. And that they gave me, I was only gone a few minutes. It all happened very quickly. And then I came back into, I was given a message and then I came back into my body. But I didn't realize it was the Pleiadians, not until I think it was at least 2009. And I have, so I I've done the whole spiritual journey. And as a child, I would have had a lot of spiritual experiences, especially in Ireland with fairies and nature and spirits. My granddad died when I was 9. So it seems looking back, I've had a lot of, like, an extreme amount of training. And I do see those negative experiences of abuse and rape as actually a positive thing. That's not to take away the trauma or the horrendous um, situation of a child being sexually abused or physically abused. But that is to say, there was a positive. I mean, I did connect to the Pleiadians because of it. And then I was given downloads of information from the age of probably 8 up right up until 16, because I was kept out of the school system by the Pleiadians. They'd put a wall of energy up in front of me where I would try to enter the school gates, and I just couldn't move, just literally could not move. So in the end, I think I did that. I tried that 3 or 4 times. And in the end, I just stopped going because I thought, what's the point? You know, it was an hour journey. I had to get 2 buses. And I had to scrape money together from my mum, begging her to let me go, and for the school bus money. And she was kind of just too drunk to know really what was going on. So in the end, I just stopped trying to do that. And I stayed in my room mostly from the age of 12 till 16. I was raped at the age of 13 by my cousin, and then had another out-of-body experience when I was 12. Um, and so I've had a lot of experience. I was channeling from the age of 12 to 16, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't know I was connected to the Pleiadians. I didn't know who they were. I just thought of them as my guides, and they often used to sing to me. I know this is a long
No,
answer,
it's
but
fine.
it's really important because, thanks, Chris. Because it is important, because some of the information I get these days is to do with worldwide events. So it's probably more important to me that the information is accurate, and that I am sure within myself of where the information is coming from, because that's to me, that's everything. You know, it really is. And so I have to be sure within myself. So anyway, I was reading books, everything I could find, the likes of Edgar Casey and Doris Stokes, who was a famous medium in the UK, I recall. Um, just any of the books I could get my hands on. The local library in Hackney was very small, so that there was a limited number of books, but I would just go and read everything I could get my hands on. And I would just stay in my room and meditate. I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time, but I did have a very unusual childhood. And I found safety in spirit, in being alone in my room. A few times I was actually locked in by my stepfather and wasn't able to get out. Um, so when I was 16, I left. I had planned to leave, and that's what I did. And because it was it I didn't want to be there. So cut a long story short, 2009, I left my husband in the UK because it wasn't a good marriage. I had been involved in spiritualism for a long time. And then I got involved in Buddhism and became a Buddhist because I seemed to fit very well within that environment. Was on the verge of becoming a nun, a Buddhist nun. I didn't take that route. I got married in Nepal, and then I came back to the UK with my husband. And 2 years later, I left him because it was not a good marriage. And then I moved to Ireland in Lewisburg. And previously, just before leaving, I had started to channel right. And I was in a very, very depressed state when I was with my husband, to do with a past life situation where he was quite a cruel person. So I found myself living in a house on the beach in Lewisburg in Mayo, which is a very rural area. Beautiful. I had a house, a very old, rundown house. But the area was just amazing. It was beautiful. And I had glass windows in my lounge so I could look over to the sea, which was about a minute away. And I began to channel the Pleiadians, actually through Joshua Shapiro had sent me some messages on Facebook saying that I would be channeling the Pleiadians, and I hadn't even really heard of them at the time. And that was in, I believe that was in 2010 or 11. I think it was probably 2010. So I published a book with all the messages and sections of my childhood, which is called The Pleiadian Child by Carol Noonan, which is my birth name. And then I moved, I think it was a couple of years later. So I went from being a long time in the spiritualist church to Buddhism and then into the shamanic. And then I moved from Lewisburg when I was channeling them in. So I began to channel the Pleiadians in Lewisburg in Mayo, which is on the west coast of Ireland. Beautiful place, amazing. And because of all the training in the spiritualist churches and my natural mediumship ability, I was able to see the Pleiadians in my mind's eye, and I'm still able to hear them. But when they turned up, I wasn't even sure who they were. But they turned up behind me and kind of in the central of my back. And then they were kind of in line going to the left, and then they were in rows behind that. So there was a kind of a section of them behind me, a central and then to the left. And they were at the time I could see tall beings, a lot of light around them, a lot of blue light, tall, thin, blonde. And it was Ashtar, gave me his name. He said, "I'm Ashtar." And I didn't know who that was. I had to Google that. And so very rarely I do Google some information that they give me, but I think I've done it maybe 5 times over the years since 2010, I think it was. And then kind of jumping forward, I got involved in one of my loves is shamanism. So I began to train as a shamanic practitioner with Paul O'Halloran who's a shamanic who is a shaman in Galway. And I moved from Mayo to Galway, which isn't very far. It's a couple of hours drive, maybe 3 or 4 hours drive. So then I began 2 or 3 years training with Paul O'Halloran. And I was going through I had a huge process for a couple of years, and I wouldn't really read any. I was stayed away from other channelers, but I had this process going on for about 3 or 4 years of who in their right mind is going to believe that I am channeling the Pleiadians, and that was my thought over and over and over and over again, until eventually I did read a book by Barbara Marciniak where she was thinking the same thing, but this was years later that I actually read the book. And then I found myself doing the shamanic training with Paul O'Halloran, and because I had this question going round in my mind, I was also asking people like, is this really the Pleiadians? It's like what is like, because I had so much doubt within myself. And thankfully, bless his soul, he really confirmed it for me, because he was getting the same beings as I was.
And who was this?
And Paul O'Halloran in Galway, one of my shamanic teachers. So I have had it clarified over the years, but there are ways that I do check in, and there's an important story I do need to share, or an experience I do need to share, but I have had it clarified, and I do know within myself that it is the Pleiadians I'm channeling, and most especially Ashtar. Having said that, there was one particular time when I sat down and I could feel the Pleiadians stepping in. At least I thought it was. And I was in Galway at the time, and I'd moved to Galway to do the shamanic training because it was a couple of years and I wanted to be there within the local vicinity. So I had moved there to do the training, and I had I think this was 2011 or 2012. And then I had so I'd been channeling like maybe a year or two, and then these beings turned up that I thought were the Pleiadians. And I had this experience, and then it turned out not to be them. So then I was like, oh, okay. And this is really where I learned to ascertain, to clarify, to make sure that it is the Pleiadians before. So around the time they step in, around the time I sit down to channel, I have a couple of minutes or however long it is I take to make sure that it is them, because I had this experience where it wasn't them, and I mistakenly thought it was. So I'm very well aware, and I think that was to do with the shamanic training as well, because I believe that one of the things I learned in around that time and with the shamanic training and with my connection to the Pleiadians, there's something else I need to share with you as well. But energy does and can and does disguise itself as energy that it's not. That goes for everything. That goes for spirit, that goes for angels, that goes for Pleiadians, that goes for everything that exists. Energy can and does disguise itself as an energy that it's not, meaning that a fake or a negative energy or entity are well able to disguise who they are. They cannot do it. I don't feel that they can do it for a long time, but they do have a window of opportunity where they can disguise themselves as an energy they're not. So as channelers, as mediums, as psychics, we do need to be very cautious and to check in that those energies are who they say they are. I have different techniques now that I use that I don't really want to make public, because, or not even public, but I don't want to speak out, because then I would be giving away my kind of my secrets, or I feel like if I did that I would be making myself more vulnerable to those negative energies of my own test, to make sure that it is the Pleiadians. So I don't want to be telling the negative entities how I'm checking them out, you know, what I'm doing. So and then there was another experience I had, and this is one of the main reasons that I'm so sure of, like, really steadfast in my belief and my mission and my purpose and why I'm here, and that I am a genuine channel for the Pleiadians. Is one of the shamanic journeys I had with Paul O'Halloran in a group while we were doing ayahuasca. I was and it was one of those experiences that just stays with you for your whole life. Like, you'll never forget it. It's just so real and vivid and just profound. So I was doing this ayahuasca shamanic journey in a group with Paul O'Halloran, and I had this experience and it was very emotional. I was in tears, and I was snotty nose, and I was coughing and just all of it. You know, ayahuasca is not these sacred herbs bring up stuff that needs to be cleared. They can also take you into altered states and bring up situations and fears that need to be cleared. And this is all what was going on at the time. And with that question I had over and over and over again of, am I really channeling the Pleiadians, like this poverty-stricken little girl from Hackney, from a no good
Yeah.
family? Um, I didn't believe it. In the beginning, I was like, what? So with this question that I kept asking myself, I was taken out of body and I was taken on a journey where I went up into space, into the universe, and I was very much seeing from that perspective. So I was seeing stars and planets and suns and moons, and just taken on a very deep journey. Um, and I was shown my mission, I was shown my purpose, I was shown some of my guides, I was shown my past life, one of my past lives on the Pleiades. I do have several, but I was shown one of them. I was shown that I come from there, that I'm not here, that I'm not from here, that I'm a star seed, that this is part of my mission to channel the Pleiadians, um, which I take very seriously. Um, it, it's it's why I'm still here. There's been, yeah, it's why I'm still here. So, and I do get heavily targeted because of that. The first time I was targeted, um, I had been channeling the Pleiadians for a couple of months, and I was still in the love, and I hadn't started to do the shamanic stuff yet. So I was still very much in the psychic and medium and channel and love and light and kind of the woo-woo, go and light a candle and the healing and the beauty of it. I hadn't yet experienced anything negative. So I wasn't really aware of, I mean, I'd had negative experiences in the past with spirit, but never with human beings. So I'd been channeling the Pleiadians for a couple of months, sorry. And I think my book was out at the time. I think, I'm not too sure about that. But anyway, I had this message from someone on Facebook who said he worked for NASA, and we should, he, at the time I had thought he was joking, not about NASA, because I had no reason to disbelieve him about that. I knew he was genuine. But jokingly, he sent me a message saying, yeah, we should have sex on the astral. Um, and that was that. And I automatically thinking, like, this guy is crazy. Like, so I wrote back instantly. I wrote back my thoughts. And before I could stop myself, I said, yeah, sure, whatever. Kind of with an attitude of, yeah, sure, whatever, or whatever. Um, and then I realized I shouldn't have done that, because I was unknowingly giving consent. And that evening, I was raped on the astral. And he came to me. I saw him very clearly above me, hovering. He was kind of laid down, but on top of me. So he was kind of floating above me. And then he kind of lowered himself onto me. And I know it was real. And one of the reasons I know it was real is that when I woke up in the morning, internally I was very sore, very sore. So immediately I blocked him on Facebook, and he's still in my blocked list on Facebook. Um, I never messaged him again, never approached him, never said anything. I just immediately backed off and blocked him. So that was the beginning of my targeting way back. I think it was 2010. So yeah, I get heavily targeted. I didn't realize when I began channeling the Pleiadians that there was a negative side to doing the work, and there was a negative side in being able to channel, because as a starseed, as a light worker, a healer, whatever label you want to call it, you know so many of thousands of us have missions on Earth, where and part of that is to bring about ascension and raise the consciousness of humanity. And part of that mission is going to attract the negative agenda, because there's a much bigger picture at play here to do with
Now, this is
ascension.
something I would like to explore a little bit before we get into your messages. You mentioned just now that there are individuals out there that have the ability to astrally attack us, do different things that may harm us in these altered states, in these astral realms. I've also interviewed many people who believe that they are either involved with or have been involved with some sort of black projects that utilize this psychic targeting, where these organizations have the ability to astrally affect people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that that has been going on for centuries. There's there's quite a few things I'd like to mention. I'd like to mention some of the alien abductions are very real. Not all of them. There are nefarious agencies that have, such as military or deep black ops, that have in the past. I don't know if they're still doing it, because there seems to be less abductions now than there's ever been. I've also had one experience of being taken on board with the Greys. That in my awareness, I do believe it was a genuine abduction, and it was the Greys. That wasn't a positive thing. And there was experiments going on. So I think there's several different things going on. I think in the past, I'm not so sure about now, but I think absolutely in the past, the military have had operations. Operations, yeah, I think that's the right word. Experiments going on where they have faked alien abductions with people. But there's also genuine alien abductions where people do go up on the astral plane. The astral plane is a very real place. So then you've got the CIA. So you've got military operations. You've got the dark, nefarious military. You've got the CIA and the other three-letter agencies in America who are highly trained to do things like remote viewing. Russia is also, and was also, I don't know about now, but I know in the past that Russia and America, and I believe America's still doing it, are very highly in secret. They are highly trained in remote viewing, in the astral plane, in the real science of the psychic and the woo-woo and the astral plane. And I have technology such as looking glass and all these very advanced technologies that they're using to in a for negative agenda. So you've got secret black military ops, you've got and it goes right up to it affects. So there's a colony on Mars that is real. There's life on Mars that is not a positive thing. So you've got several things going on here that are being operated by the likes of secret military black ops. You've got Area 51. You've got stuff going on beneath the earth in experiments, the astral plane, and off-world. So Mars is occupied. I know that for certain because I've had an experience where I was taken to Mars. I'm kind of like you. I question everything, and I don't believe anything unless I get it directly from the Pleiadians, because I know that I've checked it with myself for that who I'm channeling. So I think we do need to question things, and I do know that there are channelers out there who are very public. And I don't feel that they're genuine. I feel that they're agents, and I probably won't ever name them. I'll let other people do that. But so going back to what I was saying, the world is not the the world we thought we were living in is not how it really is. There are secret government agencies. There are very well-known government agencies that are working in secret. You've got the black military ops that are doing horrendous experiments. I was doing a channeling last night where I was very emotional um, because of the information I was seeing, and I've seen it before many times, but I really kind of, yesterday I got very emotional. So there are horrendous experiments that military and scientists and black ops are doing way beneath the earth in tunnels. Um, I know without a doubt that they were doing some of these experiments in Area 51. I don't know the other places they're doing them, but they are deep underground military bases with scientists who are very advanced with and using technology in a very negative way to create hybrids that are in an extreme amount of pain in their bodies. So they're creating different kinds of, they're experimenting. They are experimenting and creating beings that are one-offs and in just an horrendous amount of pain in their bodies. It's just, it's even, for me, it's even worse than the child trafficking and the trafficking of human trafficking. To me, it's worse than that because this is because because the amount of physical pain involved. So there is so many things going on there. You've got the astral, you've got the deep state, you've got the it's like a scientific horror movie. That's really what it's like. And that stuff is real and going on. And then you've got you just got so many different aspects there,
Maybe
Chris.
we could get into some
The
of the messages that you received about what is unfolding. You mentioned the message you received recently about what's going on underground. What are some of the things that we really need to be aware of as a collective?
world is not the place that we thought it was. Um, every system is run by negative ET energy, whether it's reptilian or Anunnaki or whatever you want to call them. And now I've come to the understanding that for me, there's no difference between the word reptilian and satanic. It is the same thing, same energy. And every system on earth is run by these beings at the highest level. So the beings, the human beings, I say that kind of loosely, but like the Pope and the royal family and the Rothschilds and all of the systems on earth are run by negative ET energy. And that is in order to keep control of humanity. And we are in the space of ascension, and every system is crumbling, is falling away. There was a contract, there was a very physical contract drawn up between the negative and the positive ETs way back, probably around the downfall of Atlantis, where they were given a certain amount of period of time on Earth in order to rule. The Pleiadians have made mistakes, that they are of a very high frequency, but they are not perfect. And I would say that there's no such thing as perfection, even with the God source, because God is everything. He is the positive, the negative, the dark, and the light. So I would say that there is no such thing as perfection in terms of just being positive. You know, God is source and contains everything within that, which includes the negative. So there was a contract drawn up, which is now coming to an end. So we are going to be seeing, because the reptilian beings, the negative ET energies that have been running the world for so long, the majority of them have left, but there are a certain amount of them that are refusing to go, do not want to leave, do not want to give up control. And these beings are causing havoc. And there is devastation coming. A couple of negative messages I've had or messages that aren't positive. Recently, I was given about the weather, and I was given it a few days before I released it because I wanted to sit with it a little bit before and check
Mm-hmm.
in. Like, is this like is this accurate? Because I don't want to be releasing anything that has um, anything, but as most especially that important, that could be
Mm-hmm.
inaccurate. So I sat with it a few days, but it's regarding the weather in America. Um, and I can't even remember if Florida, if the way I think Florida had already happened with Hurricane Helena.
Mm-hmm.
I think that had already happened. But I could see, so I can see some very extreme weather coming to America. And when I channel, I get images, but I also get audible messages where, because when I started to channel, I was just taking dictation. But because of all my mediumship training and the shamanic, I'm able to see images. So I work in two kind of threads or themes at the same time. I hear the audible, but I also get the images. And sometimes the images contain more information than the words or dictation or channeled audible information. And it's that can be very subtle because sometimes you can look at an image and pick up 100 different words, but when you're hearing something, you just hear the words. So images can have more of a broad of a more important message, but I get these at the same time. So what I was seeing kind of middle America. I was seeing the East Coast, kind of from Florida and above. I'm going to pull up a map in a minute because because I'm in Ireland, I'm not that great with geography. So I'm just going to have a quick look. Yeah. So the area that I'm seeing where there will be extreme bad weather, kind of is from Florida and it goes up to, my feeling is that New York will be
Mm-hmm.
hit. So from Florida up to New York is
You froze up there for a second,
right down.
right when you were saying that it may affect from Florida to New York. You froze up, so if you could continue from there.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So I see it going from like that whole
Mm-hmm.
section. Um, Not all at the same time, but I see it going from Florida right up to New York and all the way across, kind of in a
Mm-hmm.
line, going right across to San Francisco, California, Los Angeles, and all. I keep being shown all that section of California right
Mm-hmm.
down to, I think it's Cancun. I'm not too sure about Mexico. I'm really not too sure. But Mexico is very much, there's a lot of coastal uh, areas: Costa Rica, Panama, Barbados, Guatemala, Cuba, Puerto Rico. All that is very coastal area. A lot of water, which is
Mm-hmm.
concerning. I don't see, so I feel that it will go right up to perhaps Vancouver or beneath Vancouver. I don't feel that Alaska is going to be affected so much, and perhaps even not Canada, but I just see that kind of midsection of America. And I see it happening not all at the same time. I see it sporadically, kind of just in different
Mm-hmm.
places. And even jumping around. So you could have something in that goes something um in Alabama or Texas, and then going back to Illinois, and then jumping over here and jumping over there. It's kind of sporadic. There doesn't seem, I'm not looking at any pattern and it goes from A, B, C, D, or state to state to state in a line. I don't see that. I see it kind of very mixed up and in different velocities. So some will be very affected, areas will be very affected, and then others less so. But
Well, right now,
I
many are discussing the possibilities of weather warfare and weather manipulation technologies from these dark forces that we were just speaking of. Do you think that is what's happening right now as opposed to something natural?
I don't think this is natural at all. Um, there is a lot of researchers out there. I'm not a researcher, so I never even research the messages from the Pleiadians because I trust them enough that they know what they're talking about. Very rarely will I research stuff. Very rarely. But yes, the weather is. It, I saw a video earlier where 9 years ago they had released on the mainstream media information that they were doing weather modification. You've got different technologies that they are using. I have been shown that they are using technology that goes beneath the ocean, very deep ocean. I don't know which one. Probably most likely in between here and America. So I need to add, the weather I've seen also affects Ireland and the UK because I see it coming across. There is so with the weather, they are using different technology, advanced technology to create negative weather. There is cloud seeding, there is geoengineering. I normally just call it chemtrails, but other people, we use different words for the same thing. There's all of that. And then you've got HARP, and then you've got nanotechnology within the rainfall. So there's a lot going on to do with negative technology. These beings that have been running the planet are fighting for their lives to stay in control, and are kind of in a last battle. This is a war on humanity. It is a spiritual war using using advanced technology in a negative way, because technology is not positive or negative, depending on which hands it's in. And they also have looking glass technology as well. And then you've got the timelines and different things going on. But yes, absolutely. And they've admitted that they're doing it on the mainstream media, on the news. Over the years, they have admitted it.
Yeah. Well, right now, with the chaos we're seeing with just politics in general and this upcoming election, I am of the belief and awareness that both sides of our political spectrum are controlled. Both of these sides, left, right, Republican, Democrat, will both have the same overall objective to keep you locked in this false system. Would you agree?
I would. And I've never actually voted politically. I've never voted. I've never believed in it. I've known from a very young age that it's, excuse my language, complete BS. So I've never voted. However, when COVID kicked off in the UK, just between at the end of 2019 and 2020, I was given downloads of information regarding Trump and Putin. Where I believe Trump is very much in contact with the Pleiadians and also Putin, and these two are actually very good friends and working for the good of humanity. I know a lot of people will disagree, especially with Putin and also Trump, but that is how I see these two people. They are working extremely closely with the Pleiadians in a very physical way. I don't mean that they're sat down channeling. I mean they're working very closely in a very physical way. And I've very humbly, with grace, I've been able to witness some of those meetings. I just want to mention that the weather I see coming, it's on its way. I found out this morning that there is Hurricane Milton, I think, which is going to hit Florida again. And I was also told that the same area, not the same state, but the same area won't be hit twice. So the likes of Asheville won't be hit twice. Florida may be hit twice, but it will be in different areas. So politically, I do see that things are changing. And I think that Trump and Putin are very much there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think they're working for the good of humanity. And yeah, there's a lot going on.
This is a big question in the truther conspiracy community, is whether or not there are any individuals or groups in high powerful places that have the best interest of humanity in mind truly. And most of the people think that we are on our own, that it's going to be up to us. I am of that camp too, because I've come to the understanding that they're all fundamentally parasitic, anti-human, and the foundations have been set up by people with anti-human ideologies. Now, I personally can't see anyone that reaches that level of power that isn't compromised, but I am open-minded and I'm hopeful that that is a possibility. But what is some of the evidence that shows you that, or some of the other messages that you've been getting, and where do you think this is going to lead us in the upcoming months and years?
What you're asking, Chris, is crucial. It's exactly the question we should be asking. And I would also be in the same, going along the same thought as you. But there are two threads going on there. So let me go into that a bit, because it is so important. So the Pleiadians have said to me that we are here to assist you, but we cannot do this for you. So this is everything that's going on Earth now. Everything that is going on Earth now is to do with ascension. We are at war. It's a spiritual war on humanity that includes technology being used in a negative way. The majority of people are in denial or unaware. There is, I don't like using the word selective, but there are a few of us, like you and me and many other people, that are here for this time now. We are not normal. We are either starseeds or truthers or even activists, light workers, healers, shamans, blah, 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 blah. Whatever label you want to use is fine. But we all come from somewhere out there in the universe. And we are here now for this time. That is why we came. We're not randomly here. Our guides are not random. Our guides have known us in previous lifetimes, which is why they're connected to us. So we came en masse for this time now, because we could see, we heard the call. Guys, this is very real. This is not woo-woo stuff. This is a very real battle on humanity that includes the freedom. I won't say ownership, but freedom of the earth. Ascension is not even limited to Earth. It affects everything in the universe. So this period of, let me just add that the downfall of Atlantis is when I believe these negative reptilian ET energies came in and overthrew Atlantis. And now we are in the reversal of Atlantis. So we are going, and not even that, we are going back to the time of Atlantis. And not even that, we are going beyond. So we are going beyond a period in our history where we were more advanced. So we will end up in a space that is more advanced than we were previously. Our DNA has been tampered with, has been changed several times by negative ET beings, most likely different ones. So we've been dumbed down, and that's been proven now by science, by the likes of Greg Braden and others. So we are in a time period of ascension. And the question you're asking is extremely important, because yes, we do have help. We are different. our energy is different. Our as starseeds, our DNA is different. Our blood is different. Rhesus negative is part of a direct lineage of having Pleiadian blood, and it's also quite rare as well. So there are physical characteristics and that are very physical, such as the rhesus negative. But and your question is so important. So we do have help and assistance, and I really do believe that Trump and Putin are working for the betterment of humanity. I don't really know of any others on a political level that are doing that. I hope there are, but I can't, like, I'm not sure. I'm very clear within myself that they are good guys. Having said that, I don't trust anyone else. Like, I would trust Trump and I would trust Putin, even though Putin is being portrayed as a very negative figure and with war and everything. So I think there are good guys running at a high level that do have a lot of power and technology at their hands. But I also believe that there is a clone of Trump that is negative. So I believe there's two Trumps, and I don't believe that Trump will ever say publicly that is what's going on. But I do believe that there is a fake clone or fake human of Trump. And I do believe he releases public statements and appearances. So your question of like, oh, are we like, the Pleiadians have said to me several times, we cannot do this for you. You have to do it for yourselves. You have to rise up. Even if there is help, it doesn't matter. And the reason for that is really important, because we need to be the ones. So let's forget that there is white hats or there isn't. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that our consciousness, the likes of you and me, and mostly people who are awake, aware, conscious, starseeds, light workers, blah, 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 whatever label it is, we need to be the ones to raise up, because our consciousness has an effect. Consciousness is it spreads. So when you raise the level of consciousness, it has an effect on everything else around that consciousness. So it affects everything. And humanity, the DNA has been changed, has been dumbed down. So what the question you've asked is everything. Like, it's the crux of the matter, is that we need to raise our frequency, our vibration, our energy, our awareness. We need to stand up, and we need to have a backbone. We need to get our shit together. We need to stand up and say no. And when we do that, when enough of us do that, it will raise the consciousness of the planet and it won't allow the negative agenda to be above anymore, because the consciousness of the planet will be higher than these negative ET energies that are more advanced more technology wise, but they are not more advanced spiritually. They are not. So recently I've seen in Asheville that FEMA, and this is a very good example, that FEMA have been turning away supplies and not allowing helicopters and blah, 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 and just saying no. So I've now seen a turnaround, and this is related to what you're saying, Chris, which is it's everything. We need to stop acquiescing and allowing these powers like FEMA to be turning us away and saying, no, you can't have that, or yes, you can have that, but you need to sign these forms, and you need to do this bullshit red tape and the forms to allow you to have the 750. The people, and I've seen a change in Asheville with the people, which is just, it's beautiful to see them rise up and say no. You are not going to do this to us. The government does not have our best interests at
Right.
heart. The majority of them do not. Um, so we need to see the people raise up and say no and stand strong, whether or not there's white hats. Doesn't really matter. We cannot keep giving our power away to very in a very real physical way, where we're allowing FEMA to Hillary Clinton has done this in the past, where she's gathered a vast amounts of money for charity and different situations on that were occurring. I think it was
Haiti, yeah.
Haiti. And she kept the money. I don't know where that money went, but it didn't go to the people. We cannot allow ourselves to be kept in control, whether there's good guys or not. What white hats? We need to raise up to say no, to get together in communities. And you're seeing that in Asheville. I don't think I've ever seen a time on earth where the local people, the community, and it's fucking beautiful, where the community are saying no to FEMA, to charities. And the Red Cross is one of the biggest corrupt charities that I've heard of.
100%. Now we've got a few minutes left. Is there any final messages that you'd like to leave us with? Anything else we need to be aware of that could be coming down the pipeline within the next months, years?
I think the weather. I think the weather is a huge concern, especially with that message I had recently. And that I see that happening within the next week. I've been trying to reach as many people as I can, as many friends in America. I've asked one friend to leave. And he was given the same information, a similar information, so he's actually doing that. But just to stand up and say no, get your trucks together, especially with Florida at the moment. Find a way in to those areas to help people. If you can't go, drive through the barricades, or I heard one story of one of the FEMA people actually getting a beating. And I had no empathy for them, at all. I thought, well done. I've never seen that in a community where the people are really getting together and saying, no, we do not acquiesce. We are standing up united together, and you are not allowed. You are not allowed to rule us.
Well, I think more than anything,
no.
that is what 2020 has brought about in the collective consciousness, is awareness of the corrupt nature of this and a chance to not align with it and reject it. And I think, like I was talking with my guest the other day, that the era we're in now is for us creators to rebuild it. Like you said, it's all the parasitic systems are crumbling, and now we have a chance to take it over and rebuild something for ourselves. There may be a little bit of death throes when it comes to the parasitic ruling class, but eventually they do not have a chance with what has already unfolded, and I don't think that they could ever take back what the damage they've caused and the awareness that has washed over everyone.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, because out of the dark. So what I see often with that and the time of COVID, when I look back, I see a wave of dark coming in, and I see it a huge wall of earth, kind of like the Grand Canyon, where they've got our backs up against the wall. And then we push back, we override. And I do see people, and I do see it in terms of color being light and dark, or dark and light, where we do push back and we do overthrow the negative alien agenda. But every system is there is a lot of devastation and darkness coming to the earth, in terms of weather, in terms of financial, in terms of tsunami, and they have technology under the ocean. I think I said that underneath the ocean bed that they're using to create things like tsunamis and other bad weather, etc. One thing I'm seeing very clearly is that they are going to one of their pursuits that they're working on very strong, that the negative agenda is working on very strongly at the moment, is to ensure, because they have, is to ensure that the internet is much more censored, that we get shadow banned, that we get closed down, shut down. So that is coming. That is coming for the likes of you and me and many others. We're not going to be seen. So it's important, more important now than ever, that while we have these platforms where there's laws now being made and already made in Europe to shut us down. That because part of our platforms and part of the internet is us rising up and overthrowing the negative agenda, which I do see love wins, and I do see a very positive timeline for us, and the Pleiadians have said that they will not allow us to not ascend. It will not. They will take further action to overthrow these negative ET aliens that have been running the show for so long. Should we be at a space of where we're not they're not going to allow ascension to not occur. And the reason for that, or part of it, is that it affects the whole universe. It's not limited to Earth, guys. So the other things coming down the pipeline are financial crashes, changes. We're seeing changes with no cash. We're seeing changes with Nasara and Jasara, I think it's called. Also food shortages, strikes, but everything that is negative has a positive awareness. So things like the Hurricane Helena, what we're seeing now, I've never seen it on Earth. I think it's beautiful, where the community is saying, take a hike. And that is what I mean. We need to rise up.
Yeah, we're in a very important time, and I see many of the same things that you're mentioning. People are starting to push back and rise up, and it is a beautiful thing. Soma, thank you so much. This is great information. Definitely love to speak with you again in the future. Before we close out, let the audience know how they can pick up your books and find out more about you.
Thank you so much, Chris, really, because I know how important that message regarding the weather is.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving me a space to share that.
Yeah,
so my website is somaarah.love. I offer readings and personal channelings. I have a weekly group that is closed, so it's kind of a team now, because we've been working together so long. But I do upload those videos of the Pleiadian channelings that I do weekly. On a Saturday, I do upload those to Rumble and YouTube. I have a Substack as well, which is both free and paid. And yeah, if you'd like a reading, or if you want to send me a message, if you've got any questions for the Pleiadians, if you just want to get in touch, I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Rumble, I'm on Substack.
Wonderful. I will have those links right in the description for everyone. Soma, thank you so much. We will definitely do this again. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.